What's up, troopers? We're here for another TFT mini. Today we're going to be talking about the BARC Speeder, and I want to say
favorite unit ever.
We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. I did want to say up front, I know that there's been a lot of requests for covering clone infantry and arcs. We're actually holding off for the moment just because we have a feeling that the upcoming announcements for the beginning of November points adjustments and mini extravaganza may change significant things about those. I don't have any inside information, but certainly the cumbersome keyword is something that I'm just waiting to see if it changes before we do videos on those. So they're coming. But for right now, we wanted to give GAR players something to watch. So we are going to be covering the BARC Speeder. So Michael, the BARC's been around since the beginning of GAR.
Yep.
So it's been sort of a staple of the faction. It's been kind of in and out of favor. It's now, as we record this in October of 2025, I would say it's in the in favor category. And maybe I'll start with this. What makes the BARC different from most of the other speeders in the game?
Yeah, so the main difference here is that your dice pool never degrades. You're never taking damage that results in degradation of your weapon, because
it's only one model.
Because it's only one model,
right?
It's got one less health than most of the speeder bikes units, but it kind of compensates for that by having the red defense die, which I think, does any other speeder have a red defense die? I don't think so, right?
No, not at the moment.
So, and that definitely allows you to be the downside of that is you can kind of lose your compulsory because you can end up in the damaged zone instead of losing a model.
Right.
Which if you're gonna have one or the other, you probably would rather have damaged, I think.
Yeah.
It depends on the circumstance, right?
No, but like for what it's worth, there used to be these like this other damaged type where you would lose half the dice from your weapon. That was an old Legion, so that would really hurt the BARC in the past. But now, yeah, like losing an action for a speeder is really not so bad because you always get the compulsory move. And so ultimately what it will often boil down to is that you will merely have the action economy of non-speeder units. It means that you're extra killable because then you can't run away or hide very easily if you're just doing move shoot, so it's not hard to finish something off. But I'd say that it can handle being damaged a little bit better than some other vehicles can, and I agree with you. The fact that its dice is never going to get worse is definitely a strength of the unit.
Yeah, and unlike, I think some of the other speeder bikes, the BARC is like closer to being like a core unit with a heavy dice pool, I think, than most.
Yeah,
it's like pretty consistent. You can often like move because it's got like better defenses and you're less worried about losing models. Like move, aim, shoot is like a little bit more reasonable, as opposed to like move, shoot, move away to like, clear the zone, or shoot, move to get away. You can kind of, the BARCs they're stormtroopers with heavies defensively, which isn't to say that they're great, but they're not just gonna instantly poof the way that some of the other speeders do.
It would be really hard to one-shot a BARC speeder. Whereas, like, you compare that to something like swoops and speeder bikes, where they're not super likely to get one-shot either because they have a total of 6 health, but very easily a mini can be one-shot, and then with those units, especially the Imperial speeder bike, your dice pool then becomes sort of laughable at that point. It becomes sort of a non-entity on attack, whereas with the BARC, you need to keep hitting it until it actually blows up if you want to remove it as a threat on the field. I think that it's worth mentioning here that when you zoom out, there's basically 2 ways that you can run a BARC. One of which is to run it without a crew slot, which is to say a naked BARC, and that can be, I would say, either with or without strike and fade. It probably depends on just like how many spare points you have in your list. It's not necessary, but it certainly can be helpful. The point of a naked BARC is to be really, really fast, and B, contest points. The naked BARC, because it has Arsenal 2, it can use both the blaster rifle and the twin blaster cannon, which means that it throws a total of 4 dice, 1 red, 2 black, 1 white, which is an okay pool. What it can do is that it can potentially kill like a naked rebel trooper unit in 2 shots if you're sort of skirting around the edge of the battlefield and hitting a flank on the backside. And then it can also always put suppression on. It won't do much more than that, but again, it's the speed that's the reason that you would take a naked BARC. We're gonna put an image up here that demonstrates like how fast speed 3 with a medium base is when you're moving 3 times. It is extraordinarily fast, and it's only beaten in that respect by the Fluttercraft that we will have a video at some point. It might just be me doing it alone. But that is another really quick thing to mention, is that most other speeders are on that small base, but the BARC is on a medium base, which does make it that much faster, even when it's going speed 2, which we'll talk about here in a second. But anything else to say about the naked BARC, Mike?
I think there's a third option, I think, to take the naked BARC, and that's just because it's like pretty easy, cheap activation padding. 59 points for a activation that is reasonable in GAR is like basically this is it.
Yeah.
You're paying 3 points more than the naked core unit. You're getting more health. You're not getting more effective health because you're not searching, but
Right.
But you are getting more health, and you're getting an equivalent die pool to what the naked unit would be throwing. So
Yeah.
But you're going much faster.
So much faster.
Right?
Just so much faster. And again, the dice pool that doesn't degrade as you take hits. So, that when the clone trooper unit is down to 1 mini, it's throwing 1 black dice. But when this is taking 4 damage, it's still going to be tossing its 4 dice. So
Yeah.
it recently got cheaper in the most recent points adjustment. And so that is part of why its popularity is a little bit on the up and up. Being 59 points at a base is really solid. There are many cheap units in Republic, but given the fact that one of its cheapest can be totally on its own, independent, and run around the battlefield causing trouble and takes a little bit of effort to take down, it's really not a bad way to spend 59 points. So let's talk about the other sort of general way to run the BARC Speeder, which is, of course, with a weapon pod, a crew slot. So that gives you basically a sidecar that has one of 3 different weapons. The first weapon that I'll mention is probably the one that is least taken, and I'll talk about why in just a second, but the least taken one is the twin laser gunner. It's fixed front and rear, and then it's 2 white, 2 black. It's 4 dice, but it's also 4 sort of like moderate-ish quality dice. And so you're talking about a 7 dice attack when you combine that with the main gun, which is certainly nothing to sneeze at, but most of those dice are not super great quality, and I think that the reason why the other weapons are chosen more often is just because the other weapons are, especially one of them, is not that much more expensive, but it has a significantly higher utility, because after all, this adds dice, but it doesn't add any other useful keywords, and then it is also still fixed. Anything else to say about the twin laser gunner before we move on to the other ones?
Twin laser gunner is the only one I ever use.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, it's an interesting point of contention here.
Yeah.
Because tell me this. The RPS is only 2 points more.
Yep.
If I have a little bit of a bias against these because I worry about being quote too slow if I'm moving speed 2, and all of these reduce your maximum speed by 1. I should have said that up front. So that's an important consideration with this. To me, The RPS is 2 points more, and I'll just talk about that now, and then we can compare why you actually might prefer the twin laser gunner. But the RPS is it has impact 2. It is single rainbow, so similar like overall quality of dice to what the twin laser gunner has. It does have a minimum range, which is to say that its minimum range is 2 instead of 1, and that certainly can matter sometimes. But the best part to me about the RPS is that it's a combination of being range 4 and that it does not have a firing arc, which means that you can go in the direction that you actually want to go with your vehicle and still be able to take a shot. And I compare this to Legacy Legion, where the strafing the strafing RPS shot was a little bit of a joke in Legacy Legion because it would just get eaten up by cover every single time. Yeah. And now that's obviously not the case, and vehicles have cover much less often compared to Legacy Legion. So it's just got a lot of utility. And so, Mike, now tell me why you prefer the twin laser gunner to that.
Yeah, I just prefer the offensive output. The die pool's got a significantly higher ceiling. By significantly, I mean 1. But when you're talking about a 6 or 7 die pool, like that's a lot.
Yeah.
You often have an aim token from BARCs, whether you're taking the aim action, or you've got linked targeting array, or you've got like Yoda's tokens, or whatever. Having aim tokens to spend on these is like pretty easy, and the pool's still like you're searching to hit. It's like fairly reliable. I definitely run my BARCs, I think, a little bit less flanky than most people. I treat them as souped up core units essentially, and so like. I would encourage people to think of the twin laser gunner BARC, which is 7 dice, as like just a core unit that doesn't have with a heavy that doesn't have a like the core tag essentially. And by contrast, like you look at the mortar or the DP-23 on a clone infantry unit, and you're talking about 6 dice pools for 8 points more, 7-8 points more, and like the BARC pool is surging to hit, so it's better than those pools.
Yeah, it is
from the jump, and you're throwing more dice. I think that they're if you are like playing like a more flanky like strafe play style like you're talking about, the RPS probably has a place. But I'm more of this is an attack platform as opposed to treat it like an assault unit, and the twin laser gunner will be just fine.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that where my experience comes from is that I've played against a lot of BARCs that have been charging right at me with the heavy, and they like when you're going directly at the strong point of an enemy army, I feel like they can die really, really fast. Sure. And they don't have the advantage of being able to do what infantry can do when like the fight gets really hot and heavy, which is to hide in melee, and like gum up your opponent. The BARC is always out there and always shootable, and so I personally have just a bias against flying any speeder that I ever play directly at the center of an enemy army. And, so that's true when I've played Imperial speeder bikes, Fluttercraft, BARCs. I'm always like sort of skirting,
sure.
Trying to, and it's because of the relative fragility that I'm usually trying to do that. But you're right, for 71 points, it's in a points category that's actually not that populated in Republic.
By not that populated, you mean they have 0 options?
Some would say it's really like the only thing in that exact points category of being like low 70 points with decent output.
Yeah.
So when you think of it that way, it's actually, I think I can totally see your argument that it's a good way to fill out a list if the math doesn't support you filling it out in the other usually more expensive ways that Garlists can fill themselves out.
Yeah, and like just because you have it in your list is like kind of like a shock assault thing to like support your push doesn't mean you can't fly it like you're suggesting, right? Like you can still, like if a game dictates that you need a flanker, you can still be like, you now have the flexibility to be like, oh, this thing was basically going to be like a core unit, but now it's going to be a flanker because I need one in this situation, which is a huge bonus to have if you're taking it as like in this like core role originally, and now you're like, oh, I have a lot of flexibility here to do something that I normally otherwise wouldn't be able to do if I spent 7 extra points and took a clone guy with a shotgun.
Yeah. When you're doing a twin laser gunner BARC, are you typically trying your best to hide round 1 and then charge in there round 2, being on the point with either a double move shoot or a move aim shoot? Because if you attack round 1, you're pretty exposed.
Yes, though I don't hate the BARC being like the last thing to go in a turn, and kind of like jumping on something that they might not be able to retaliate against because they're like holding their Jedi or whatever. Right. So I definitely will. I attack with BARCs on turn 1 probably more than I should.
Fair. Worth mentioning here also that the advent of the newer rules with area terrain has definitely made BARCs more attractive as well. Yeah. The part of the advantage that the double mini speeders have that BARCs don't is that they can throw a mini up in cohesion to make their maximum wounds lower if they are able to hide one behind a building, and the BARC can never do that. It's either visible or it's not. But area terrain has basically made it so that there's more opportunities to actually fully hide an entire BARC behind something that with normal buildings is sometimes harder than you might think it is, because again, it is medium base sized and it's decently tall with the model. So it's a good thing to remember. We should also talk about the last weapon, which is the ion gunner. Now, people like me who sometimes get a little bit too focused on the loreness of it all may continue to have complaints about the fact that this is the only access to ion that the anti-droid faction has at all, at least as of our recording of this. But it has at least gotten more attractive since...
I mean, that's not true.
Wait, hang on. Yeah, I'm being live corrected here. What's the other? Oh, the droid popper. Boom. Yeah,
I mean we do have access to it. Whether
we have access to bad ion. Oops. The BARC ion gunner has gotten better since the new version of Legion, because it used to tap, which was fairly annoying in terms of using it in the past. It now no longer does that. It got more expensive when they made that change, but then it got cheaper since then because nobody was taking it. So it is, as of this recording, 21 points, which is decent. And then, like the twin laser gunner, this is also a 4 dice, and instead of 2 white, 3 black, it's 1 white, 3 black. And then, like most ion weapons now, it not only has impact 1, ion 1, but it had critical 1 sort of tacked on there to make the dice pool even more likely to be able to punch through armor and get that all important ion token on there. And so it's a slightly better overall pool than the twin laser. It is also a fixed front and rear. It is also 9 points more than that. So like when you're talking about why you do twin laser instead of this, like this is obviously a better weapon math wise, but it's 9 points more. And so the question is just like whether that's worth it or not.
Yeah, I think you take the upgrade to me if you're looking for an armor solution, but at that point, like, just save yourself 7 points and take the RPS, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Is generally how I feel about that. Ion is good, but I'm not sure it's like, if you're running a BARC, you're probably taking 3. So
yeah, it's
like, the difference of 7 points in an upgrade is really 21 points or 27 if you're upgrading from the twin laser. So that's a lot. That's close to force push, right?
Yeah, that's true.
which most Republic lists really, really want.
That's very fair.
So.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is like if by quote downgrading your ions to rockets that you could squeeze a force push in there or get close to it, then that's actually a pretty decent argument to do that.
And if it's not force push, it's like an Ahsoka unit leader, or like there are things that will matter a lot more than downgrading your impact to impact 1 and gaining ion.
Yeah. Despite the fact that there's not all that many sort of like moderate expense Republic units, there's plenty of high expense upgrades that can actually make your list significantly better.
Yeah. If you're gonna spend an extra 27 points on upgrades, don't spend it here.
Yeah, I like that. Speaking of that, there is a comm slot on this thing. It is very often blank. It's hard to think of the situations where it really, really makes sense to me to put anything on here. It's the sort of situation where if you end up in that dreaded I have 3 points left, then maybe you can toss on a spotter uplink, because it will sometimes just end up hanging around enemy units, and then you could get some sharpshooter. It'd be up to you about whether that's actually better than just tossing an impact grenade onto one of your infantry guys. But is there anything that strikes your fancy as far as a comms upgrade? I feel like you usually just leave it off.
Yeah, this is a leave it blank. I think things that you could consider is emergency transponder, or comms jammer.
Comms jammer on a naked BARC is actually, it's an old trick. It's something that actually showed up in very early days of Republic play, and you would occasionally see some people diving out there with 3 naked BARCs with comms jammers. Especially used to be really, really good against droids, because it would mess so them up with AI. Yeah. And now it no longer messes with their AI. So. It's a thing you can do, but I would say that 90+% of the time it's just an empty slot. Someday there might be a comms upgrade that is more attractive to actually be tossing on in triplicate for your triple BARC army, but it is not this day. Yeah. That covers the BARC. Do you got anything else to say about it?
No, it's a good unit. Definitely, if you have avoided it in the past, try it out. It's pretty good in New Legion. Mm-hmm. I don't know how hard they are to get right now, because
not too hard, because there were a lot of single boxes that just stuck around because they came in the core set.
Sure.
So you can still find them out there. And we'll flash up on the screen when the reprint is expected. I just don't remember it off the top of my head, sadly.
Yeah, and definitely try them out. Definitely worth it. Great addition to any Republic army.
Yep. All right, so if you like what we're doing here, please do consider checking out the Patreon. We'll see you on the next TFT mini.